One day I was just riding around with my chick and I encountered this old man who says, actually, let me just show you.
Huh? I said, run like a Ducati. They got a twin in it. That's why I run like that. Yeah. Alright. I'm insulted.
She's running like a Ducati. Basically, this guy sees my high-strung Japanese pointy machine of precision and thinks, why doesn't that thing sound like a regretful pubescent boy writhing in pain on a school playground after a day of flirting with that edgy goth chick in junior high? You know, the one with the precision nut kick? True story. Like, I pull up and the bike sounds like it's got some drop balls under his belt, and he's like, that can't possibly be a Jap bike. So now for the rest of the ride, my chick has to put up with my stink face. Like, the nerve of that guy, man. Suzuki. It's a Suzuki. Let's get it out of the way, eh? Japanese bikes, and I'm mainly focusing on the sporty bikes here. The problem is, they're fucking perfect. Yeah, so perfect in fact that they're the same bike within different classes. Of course, with some exceptions. It's not that simple though, so I really want to break this down real quick and hit you with my thoughts on the topic because I got a bone to pick. There's so much to talk about, but I'll make this as quick as possible. Alright, check it out. We're gonna rewind the clock back in time to one of my favorite eras.
The 1960s, and more specifically, the world of GP racing in this decade. See, Europe in the 1950s had a monopoly on GP racing until Japan steps up in 1959 with ambition of, yes, the one-winged angel itself. In the early 60s, Honda did so well that the other guys from the East wanted to get on its sweet, sweet Euro bike butt-kicking action. Ooh-wee. Now, we're not here to talk about racing and whatnot. Let's talk about the bikes, the RC bikes.
The main reason why the Japanese made Europe its bitch was because of the cavalry of metal horses they were packing. Even by modern standards, these bikes were pretty damn badass.
And off goes Jim Redman on his Japanese Honda. Now Alan Shepard's MZ, number 3, and Taniguchi's Honda. Tom Phillips is third, and the other 3 leaderboard places are filled by Hondas too. Redman's, Shimazaki's and Taniguchi's. What a performance. But it's Honda, Honda, Honda all the way. Here's Phyllis and Brandish.
Their race bikes were miles ahead of their road bikes. Like, Honda had things like 4-cylinder 50cc bikes. Like, how the fuck do you do that? Even 6-cylinder 250cc bikes. On top of that, instead of running the typical 5-speed transmissions, Honda went as high as 10 speeds. I don't know about you, but that's some real fascinating shit. That came to an end when it was deemed that such extreme differences in Japanese bikes between the road bikes and the race bikes was not really fair anymore. The classes were no longer done by simply CC, but now by weight, cylinder count, and even gear count. So Honda says, alright, word, we finna come back, just wait on it. And guess what? They did. In fact, they did in 1978, years later with the all-new NR 500. Now this part makes me laugh because somehow Honda showed that they're pettier than your baby mama with this one. See, at this point, 2-stroke bikes pretty much dominated the racetrack, and if you had a 4-stroke bike of the same displacement, you're probably at a disadvantage. See, when Honda left the racing scene in the 60s, 4-stroke 500s were the king, but not anymore. 2-strokes were where it was, and being fully aware of this, Honda said, nope, we're gonna push the envelope. So they made this super original, high-tech, almost pseudo V8 engine. The engine was a V4, which was not super original, but here's the catch. These guys gave each piston 2 connecting rods instead of 1, and basically stretched each piston into an oval shape. Think of a V8, right? But every 2 pistons share a combustion chamber with the one next to it. It's pretty awesome, right? Yeah, but it flopped. Yeah, it was just too heavy and too 4-stroke-y. But it's a badass bike that really held its own even without wins.
Well, it's a very important bike. This bike came out in 1992, and the big thing about this is it's got oval pistons. So it's a V4 with 4 pistons, but they're oval shaped, so it allows it to have 8 valves per cylinder, and each piston's got 2 con rods. So effectively, it's a V8. Other things about this: full carbon fibre bodywork, twin underseat exhaust pipes, which Ducati copied for their 916 allegedly. Very futuristic dash. We've got 16-inch front wheel, single-sided swing arm, a titanium covered screen, which costs about £1,500 to replace. And in its day, it was the most expensive production bike you could buy.
In '82, Honda puts out a two-stroke V3 in the NS500. All right, yeah. Let's take a step back. Yes, I know these are race-specific bikes, not bikes for the average schmuck who could go out and buy it. But although there were some replicas produced for the road, for homologation, blah, 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 they weren't really mass-produced. But the thing is, it sets a precedent for the engineering prowess that was coming out of the Japanese motorcycle sector. And the ways that the Japanese expressed themselves on the track often had a tendency to bleed into the bikes on the road. The Japanese were making some unique bikes between the late 70s and the 90s, and that's why I love older bikes. So let's get to the point. See, in the 70s, you had bikes like the Honda CBX come out. That bike had 6 cylinders for no reason other than it fucking could. Displacement was just over a liter. It had dual overhead cams, 24 valves. It was 4-stroke. It made 105 horses, and it was air cooled. And with the proper exhaust systems, that shit would sound fucking amazing, like half of a V12 or something. I know I'll have made it in my own life if I can own a CBX, because those things go for a pretty fucking penny, especially the good condition ones. And if I own one, best believe I'm gonna mod the hell out of it. Sorry, purists. There was the Kawasaki H2. Nah, not the new one, the original one. It was an inline triple 2-stroke whose engine was way too powerful for the simple chassis and brakes at the time. They actually had to tone it back, because imagine how snappy a triple 2-stroke would be with, what, the 750 cc's? There were the Yamaha RD and RZ bikes, which packed super punchy 2-stroke engines with inline twins all the way up to V4s. Suzuki had their say with the balls to the wall RG500 Gamma. But all that 2-stroke fun was killed off by environmental legislation. The US laws had a large impact on the worth of producing 2-smokers, so they eventually just kind of died off. You had the typical UJM, that means Universal Japanese Motorcycle. You had the typical bikes of that kind, you know, you got the CBs, the KZs, the GSs, XJs. That pretty much had the inline twin and inline 4 segment of the market absolutely filled out and dominated. Yamaha had a couple outsiders and a few personal favorites of mine, actually. They had the XS750, the 850s, those bikes had inline triples, and they had the XVs, which had V-twins, and that's pretty normal, but the twist is that they had monoshocks, which were rare enough back in the day on road bikes. But to take it a step further, Yamaha for some reason put it on a cruiser of all things. Today it remains a bike I would still love to own because of the unique frame, the monoshock, and the V-twin engine. It really makes for a really stunning cafe racer. Still, it's this era of the 70s and the early 80s that really established Japan as the country of inline 4 engines. Honda started it, and then the country as a whole, they ran that shit. The template for the universal Japanese motorcycle had come to include it running on a 4-banger. Now you know Honda. Whole petty, cheeky Honda. They're like, yeah, y'all keep on with that inline 4 shit. We finna dabble into the V4.